All right, so I think we will get started back so we can get out of here on time, maybe a little bit early. Can we just make sure everybody can hear me online? I know we had some technical difficulties earlier. Just give me a thumbs up or something online if you can hear us. Yep, we can hear you. Good. All right. So this section, we are going to talk about how to create courses from scratch. Also, we'll talk about how to copy content from your existing courses into Ultra, converted it from original to Ultra or from an Ultra class to another Ultra class. And we'll also look at our AI course design assistant as a part of that process. So I think we will start with just kind of the traditional way of creating courses, and then I'll talk about how to copy in and convert the options that you have there, and then we'll talk about how the AI design assistant can make all that easier for you to start with. So once you get your course shell, you will probably see something that looks very similar to this. It's just a blank course with your course title and things from here. So obviously you want to start adding content. And as we talked about earlier, to start with, we're going to click content. We're going to click create. Again, I'm going to lean towards learning modules as our basis for containing our information. Just because of the reasons we talked about earlier. If you weren't in that first session, there are some significant navigation improvements for students and for faculty in the learning modules. And also you get to use that progress tracking tools that we talked about. So I'm going to default to using learning modules. I would highly suggest that you do. So the question did come up during break about what do we define as a learning module? For us, that's just the name of the tool that we use. That's just the name of that content. So you could create this and you could call this could be week 1, week 2, week 3 for you. It could be chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. It could be unit 1, unit 2. The nomenclature that you use to break and chunk your content down, completely up to you. The learning module name is just the name of our tool. You do not have to use the word module as a part of the title for that container. So if I come in here and say I'm teaching an 8-week class and I want to break it down by what's due in week 1, week 2, which is a logical thing that we would do. So we call this week 1, and you can put in a title, week 1, intro to marketing. Okay. And again, everything that we create, remember, is default as hidden from students. And we can go ahead and change that to visible if we want to. We can add a description to this, and this is going to be what shows up on the main page. We get 750 characters as a part of this description. So we keep this short because we don't want it to clutter the main page. We want to keep it, so that students can see what's going on, give a little bit of eye relief. So we'll just call this intro to marketing. Just for now, you can call it and you can add whatever text you want to. And so this is where we talked about forced sequencing earlier. So if you want this module to require the students to go step by step through the material that you put in this and not be able to skip around, that they have to complete the first thing to get to the second thing, complete the second thing to get to the third thing, this is where we turn that on. So if you want forced sequencing turned on, you can turn it on here. If you don't want them to, and you can allow them to jump around in the material, completely fine. You can leave that unchecked. We'll leave it unchecked for now. So now we can add an image to our module. Remember, we come into, we either can click on the picture here or click on add image. You have a couple options. One is you can upload a picture from your computer. So if you've already got a thumbnail image or an image that you want to use, feel free to upload it and put it into your class. If you don't, remember we have the option of stock images from Unsplash. Also, remember what I told you it does. When you do that, it's going to pull in the information that it has to try to help me suggest a picture. So it saves me a step if I wanted to. So it saw that the only thing it has to go on is the title of this module right now, and it's called Marketing and Introduction. So that's what it's searching for. I don't like any of those pictures, so I'm just going to take the word introduction out, and I'm going to search just for marketing. And we'll find a picture. Maybe we're going to do social media. Maybe that's what we're talking about. So I pick that picture. I can zoom in, zoom out. I can move this around. Then I'm going to save that. And again, it's going to ask me about accessibility. It's going to ask me for alternate text. If you don't know what alternate text is, this is for anybody, any of the students that may have visual impairments that are using screen readers to interact with your class. When the screen reader comes up to an image, it can't display that image to the student. So it looks at what descriptors you have told it, and it reads the description behind the image to tell the student what the picture is. So you can either mark this as decorative, and it'll just, when the screen reader gets to it, says, this is a decorative image, which means it doesn't really add anything to the content. Like it's not important what the picture looks like because it's just a decoration. If that's the case, then you mark it as decorative. But if it's a graph or a chart and you need the students to understand, even if they're visually impaired, what the chart is saying, you can add a descriptor to this that says this is a profit margin chart that shows growth over the last 5 years. That screen reader will then pick up on those words in the back end and read that to the student that has the visual impairments so that they can still take advantage of the pictures that you put in. But for now, we're just going to say this image is decorative because it really doesn't matter what this picture is. It's just a decoration for us. Okay. And now we've clicked save. Now we have our first module. Okay. We see our brief little introduction that we put here. We've got our text. We've got our introduction. We've got it visible to students. We're ready to roll. Okay. Let's say I want to add a nice picture across the top. So I'll come over to course image and we'll edit display settings. Okay. And this is where we can turn our course banner. Okay. Remember again, we're going to click picture, either upload it from your device, or we're going to pick an image from Unsplash, principles of marketing, and we'll just pick any random picture we want to. Let's say we like this picture. It will crop it down for us. We can make sure that we got what picture. So this box will tell us, because it's a long, elongated image, it'll show us exactly what's going to display. We can move the picture around. We can zoom in, zoom out. So we'll click save, process the image here. Again, we're going to leave it as a decorative image. We don't really need to describe to students what that is. And we'll turn that on as our course banner. Save. And now we have a nice little picture. If you ever want to come in and change that, you click on the little pencil. You can come back in and change that image to whatever you want it to be. Again, if you've got something saved on your computer, feel free to use that. Use the Unsplash tool. Just adds a little decorative flair, makes it look a little more inviting to the students. Just makes it a little more visually appealing. Okay. So now we remember our nice little handy dandy purple plus buttons. So we can come in and start adding our content to it. Okay. So we can do create. Again, we can create our document, which remember earlier that we talked about. This is kind of like your blank canvas. This is like your web page. This is the place that you can put in text. You can put in videos. You can put in images. This is kind of your blank canvas that you are putting your content into. Okay. We'll do that. And then we come to our blank page. We give it a name, and we'll call this intro module 1. Okay. And let's add content and say I want to add a picture to this. We'll go to Unsplash again. We'll go marketing. And I like this picture. Again, the display name comes up with the alternate text. It will tell you, it will give you suggestions of what that alternate text can be. Again, you can mark it as decorative. And this file options here is pretty interesting too. You get a couple options of how you want the students to be able to interact with any of the files that you upload. The first one is view and download. They can view it on their computer, and they also have the ability to download whatever file. So think about if you upload a PowerPoint slides or if you upload a Word document, you get these same options. You can allow the student to see it rendered in line with your class, or you can allow them to download it. The other one is if you only want them to be able to see it online and not necessarily download it, if you don't want them downloading your PowerPoint slides or your study notes or whatever it is, you can restrict them to only being able to view whatever file it is online, or you can allow them to just download it only. So it's just an image. It doesn't matter to us. We'll view only. So when you add an image that way, you also get the handy dandy little trick of being able to just drag and change the size of the image. Makes it really easy. You don't have to go into the properties and change anything. You can just drag and change it. Okay. So now there's our first piece of content on our document. So we'll come in, we'll add content to this. Say something like, welcome to one. Here are your learning objectives for the week. Then you can do whatever you want to. Add text here. This could be understand the definition of marketing. I know that's not a very well-written learning objective. I get it. I'm just trying to think of it off the top of my head. I get that that's not measurable. I get it. Or we could say, how about describe the definition of marketing? That's better. That is now measurable for those IDs, instructional designers in the room. Now that is better. Okay. Then we can just keep adding from here. We can keep building out. We can do, so if we want to do, again, if we want to do YouTube video, we could add a YouTube video directly from here. Let's do intro to marketing for our YouTube video. And we'll select this one. Again, do we want it to open in the browser and directly in the window in Blackboard, or do we want them to click on the link and go to the outside? I want them to stay in Blackboard. I don't want them going out, so I'm going to leave that there. Displays in line. Click Save. So we just continue to add our content to this. We continue to walk through adding our content, adding our learning objectives, add whatever material you want to the class. Also, if you were using McGraw-Hill or Cengage or any of those kinds of things, there are a couple ways you can add those links to your class. One is you can add them directly to the content page of your class. So if we click on the nice little purple plus button, you go down to Content Market. That's where all of your LTI tools live that you have access to here on campus. You can see we have Cengage, Macmillan, McGraw-Hill. These are the ones we have on our servers. What you have here at Foresight Tech is completely up to what your administration has put on, but I would imagine you have probably the major textbook publishers, and you can add those links to that content directly from here. I don't have any courses built in Cengage, or I'm not going to do that, but that's how you would do that. So yeah, so if you add the plus button, it's just going to add a link to that directly on there. Those are usually external links, and that will just add that link to the homepage. And when the students click it, it'll follow the link to whatever tool it is. If it doesn't have that plus button, then that means it's going to open a dialog box for you to interact with. Because like for Cengage, what you're going to do is you're going to have to, it's not set up right now, but it would bring up and say, hey, which course are you connecting it to? Is this your first time? Do you want your grade book? And then it would take you there. And you would be able to select individual links. This is just a link to this tool. Like Cengage is going to bring in a link to chapter 1 reading, chapter 1 quiz, chapter 1 this. So there are lots of different links it can choose from. So you have to, there's an additional step to getting that LTI link. And you're used to doing that in your original courses because, like, I mean, you have to pick which of the chapter links you want where and the LTI tool. That's the difference. Yep. And so now it's added this link to the homepage, and students would just click on that and it would take them to the course evaluation for your class. If you have that course evaluations tool, I'm not sure that you guys license that, but that is one of our licensed products. And so I just use that as an example. So usually with the LTI tools like that, and I'm getting outside of what Blackboard normally does. So when we were at Greenville Tech, we used Zoom. We had our Zoom set up so that as an LTI tool. So we would add that link to the class. The instructor would then need to click on it the first time to connect it to the Zoom and make sure it's got the right class set up. So the course evaluations would be the same way. You would add as an instructor, you need to click on it first, make sure it points to the right class. But then when the students do it, it just would go to where it needs to go. Yeah. So again, so we're talking about LTI tools. So they function a little bit differently than what standard Blackboard. But for Zoom, I know that one because I've used it in Ultra, is that the instructor adds the Zoom link to it. when the students click on it, it will take them to your like landing page for your class. So if you have scheduled meetings for your class, it would show them that whole list. Also would have your like individual meeting room set up in there. And when their students are ready to go to your live class, they could click on that link and it would take them to the meeting that's happening at that time. Again, that's something you guys would have to set up here at Forsyth to make sure your LTI with Zoom is set up. I don't know if you guys have that yet or not, but that is a possibility, makes that a little bit easier, and I'll let Brian deal with that. So again, so we just keep coming in and we keep adding things and you keep building your class. I mean, it's pretty standard, pretty, pretty straightforward. So also creating, you can create documents, you can embed a cloud document. So if you've got your OneDrive from Microsoft set up in Blackboard, don't know if you guys do or not, it might be something to look into. You can pull documents from that and put it directly into Blackboard. Google Documents work the same way. You can add an HTML link to it. Scoring packages, I don't think you guys have any of those. But also this is where you come in and create test assignments. And now the newest one we've added here is a form. So if you want to create, just, get some feedback from students on a form, you can do that. But we'll talk about assessments in the last session of the day. So again, I mean, pretty standard way of building a class. And this is a good way to build from scratch. If you don't have anything to work from, this is kind of the way to start your class. So let's talk about what happens if you've got, we can just do it from here. What happens if you've got content in another class? So you're converting from your original class into Ultra. If you've got like your playground in your Ultra class, you build out some things that you really like there, and you want to put it into your active class. So how do we do that? There's two basic functions that we can do. One is if you come to the top level here and do the buttons, you can do copy items, and we can copy any class that we are enrolled as an instructor in. Okay. If you do, so these are all the classes that I have on the system that I'm listed as an instructor in. So if I click on the top level here, this is going to copy the entire class from that into Blackboard Ultra. It's going to convert it if it's an original, and it's just going to put it as one big copy into the system. Okay. If I don't want to do that, I can actually drill down into each of these classes, and I can pull individual pieces of content from those classes. So let's say I created a quiz that I'm really proud of in one of my classes, and I want to pull that forward into my next class. I can go grab that one quiz and pull it over. I can grab rubrics. I can grab pieces of content. I can grab announcements, your syllabus, anything like that. Anything that's in those class, you can go and pull and put it into your new class. I don't know how much you guys did course copying in original, like from one semester to the next. But in original, it worked that you went into the course that had the content, and then you pushed that content into the new course, into the blank course. Ultra has completely reversed that. Ultra, you go into the course where you want the material, and you pull the material into that new course. So it's flipped the way you do course copies. Okay? Does that make sense? Did I confuse everybody? Okay. So I'm in my Ultra class. I'm in the course that I want the new material. I want to copy the new materials into. I copy from the old course into the new course, which is backwards from the way we did an original. So that caused a little bit of consternation in some campuses that I've been to, but we're there. So let's say I want to pull in Unit 1. I like all the content that's in Unit 1. So I add that, and it adds it to like my little shopping cart up here. Think of this like your little Amazon shopping cart, okay? I can go in and pick as many of these as I want to. Say I like all 3 of these units. I can put it there. I can also go back to another class and pull in content from there. I can pull in from multiple classes at the same time if I want to, okay? So let's say I'm happy with these 3 things, and then all I do is click Start Copy. So now what this is doing, you'll see your little circle right here working. Now this is going to that old class and converting that material and bringing it over into Ultra for you. So now you see we have our importance of animal nutrition was one of the things we grabbed. Here's our Unit 1 folder. Here's our Unit 3 folder, Unit 2 folder. So now we have all the material that was in our previous class is now in our Ultra class. Simple, easy, quick to pull forward, okay? So the one caveat to this, or the one thing I want to point out, is that in that original class, these were built in folders, and now it brings it over as a folder, okay? So now we've missed out on all of the all of the navigation things that we talked about earlier, because now it's in a folder. So what can I do? I can do one of two things. So I've got my folder one here. I can actually grab this material and just move it up. And now it's in my module one. I can move this up and I can move this up. Now this folder is empty and I can just get rid of it. And now all the things from my previous class from unit 2 are now in this module. Okay, so that's one way to do it. Bring it over, drag and drop it up. But sometimes that takes some extra steps, and we might not want to do that. So what else can we do? Let's create a new module. And we'll just call this module 2 for now. We'll make it visible. Not going to worry about a picture at this point. Okay, so now I can come into the module itself. I'm going to go back to our little handy dandy plus button. And you see I've got the option to copy content again here. Okay, so I'm going to copy content. I'll go back into my animal nutrition class, and that same unit, but instead of grabbing the folder level, I'm going to go one level down. I'm going to grab these 3 things, copy it. And now it's actually going to add it into my module 2. So now I don't have to drag and drop and move it around. Now I accomplished the same thing I did here without needing to drag and drop them. I've added them directly to my module 2. Now I've got the navigation. Now I've got the progress tracking. Now I have all of that stuff set up just by going by changing the way I did it. Does that make sense? It will bring the dates over from what's in there at the time. And there's a way that we can edit those dates. We can batch edit those dates. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Okay. And again, we just make sure we make these visible to our students. Yep. So now our module 2 is kind of set up. So either way, you can copy your entire class over, but the downside to copying the entire class is that you're kind of trying to teach an original class in Ultra. And so you don't always take advantage of all the new tools and features that we've released in Ultra, because now you just have an ultrified version of your original course. My personal preference is that you take a little bit of time and rethink about what you're doing, about how you want this to work, and make sure that you're using the new tools and not just converting an original class to an ultrified original class, if that makes any sense. Just think about how you want the students to navigate it. Are folders the right way, or modules the right way? Also make sure, the test questions, when we get to those, that you're using the new test question functions, or the, different things like that, just to make sure that you're taking advantage of all of the things that Ultra can offer. Okay. So any questions about copying content from your previous class into your new class, or creating it from scratch? Any comments or questions about that process?
We do have a couple questions from the online chat. One question is, where and how do I link the textbook?
That depends on which textbook you're using. If it's an LTI tool textbook, you would add it from the, do you guys have a textbook manager, or I'm not sure how you guys do it here. Do you have like Red Shelf or anything like that? Vital Source. Yes, so Vital Source should be set up as an LTI tool. And so you would just go in and add the link to, when you go into Content Market, Vital Source should be one of your options, and you would add that to it, and then make sure your class is connected to your textbook through the bookstore. But that's a Vital Source thing. I don't super know much about it on that side, but that's how we did it. Like Panopto would be the same way, or Turnitin. You would just add the LTI tool to your textbook resource, Vital Source, or McGraw-Hill, or whatever textbook it is. So it really depends on the school how that works.
Another question we had from the chat is, someone asked, Blackboard Learn had a course to a feature where we could upload tests, etc. What is the ultra equivalent?
The ultra equivalent, well, we haven't gotten into creating tests yet. So that's in the next session in the assessment. So we'll get to that then. I don't want to jump too far off track right now.
Gotcha. Let's see here. Okay, another question we have is, if you try to pull a specific test from an old Learn course, does it automatically bring the pool of questions used by the test?
Yeah, it does. So let's go into copy content. Let's find a class that would have a test. Yeah, so you can grab test banks as well. If you want to just do test banks, you can copy those. But if you also copy a test that's connected to a test bank, it will you have the option to bring both over. But you can also just bring over the test banks if you want to do that as well.
Gotcha. Let's see. Do we have time for like one or two more?
Yeah, go ahead.
So another question is, someone asked, how do I add a YouTube video?
YouTube video. Yeah. So if you go into, so what you'll do is go back into our document, our Ultra document is the best place to put them in. And then you would go to add content. And then on this right side, you do add this button here, and then you do YouTube video. So two ways to do it. If you know the YouTube URL, if you copy and paste that, you put it into the link here and click search, and that will allow you to add the video from here. But also, if you need to search for a YouTube video, you can search YouTube directly from here and find it. And so if I do, again, do marketing, and then I like this one, I can just select this, and I can have it open in the Blackboard inline. So there's my YouTube video, and click save. And now that YouTube
marketing, we hear about it a lot on social media.
Okay. Does that make sense? Pretty straightforward, right? Okay. So now, so all of this should be fairly similar to the way you're probably building classes now, copying content. It's not a huge change. The copy content piece is really cool because you can get down to specific content levels and pick, just one assignment or one thing. You don't have to bring over all of it. I think that's really cool. So like if I want to pull over just this final exam, I can pull over just that one exam all by itself. I don't need to pull over the whole class and go through and delete and all that. Okay. So that's kind of the traditional way that we build courses. So I want to show you how the AI design assistant can play into this and can change kind of how we do things a little bit. Because this can be tedious, this can be time consuming to build from scratch. It is much easier to build from current content that you have and just copy and paste it over. That is by far the easiest way to do it. I'm just going to start from a blank slate on this class. Okay. And I'm going to get rid of this too. All right. So we're back to square one. You just got your course. They've rolled out you into this course, and now you need to build your course, right? So instead of building, and you're like, oh man, I don't really know where to start. There's so many places to start. What do I want to do? So if you come into, before we just started building from scratch, we did add content. That assumes that you have some sort of roadmap in your head, what you want your course to look like. You probably have your schedule built out, and you're just making this meet your schedule. If you have no clue, say this is your first time teaching this class, you know the material, but you don't really know how to organize it well. So you come into auto-generate modules. And so what this is going to do now is allow you to use our AI design assistant to suggest modules for you to kind of get you started. So what it does, it looks at the material that's in your class at the time and tries to suggest to you what it thinks would be good. So this SOL, Principles of Marketing, is the name of this course. So what it's going to do is say, what would a typical Principles of Marketing class cover, and how would we break this up? Okay, marketing instructor, that's what I've been teaching. So obviously, introduction to marketing. Everybody's going to start with an intro class. You teach intro to business. What's your first module called? Intro to business, right? Or your management class, intro to management. That's pretty typical, right? Give you an overview. If you're a marketing instructor, you're always going to have to cover market research and analysis. Like I've never taken any marketing class that didn't mention marketing research. That's valid. Product development, marketing communications, promotions, advertising, all these look like things that I would cover in my marketing class. And this is just by the title of the class. I've done nothing else to it other than give it a title, okay? What if I want to refine this down? And maybe I'm doing principles of marketing, but I really want to talk about advertising, mass communications, and promotions. Okay. So now I've given it a little bit of a description. I've given the system a little bit more info to work from. This could be your course description from your catalog. This could be your course learning objectives can go into this. And then we can come in and say, I want to add the prefix of week to it. So I want it to be week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. Okay. And I want it to generate 7 modules. Okay. Instead of just the 4 that it gave me. So now based on this additional information that I've given it, I click on generate. Let it do its little AI magic in the background. So now look what it's done. Week 1, still introduction to principles of management, typical first week. Then next week goes into understanding advertising because I told it that I wanted to make sure we cover advertising. Effective mass communications because I told it that I wanted to do mass communications. Promotional strategies because I told it promotions. And then it goes into consumer behavior because you can't do advertising without understanding the behavior of what people are doing and why they buy things. So consumer behavior is a next logical step to this. And then obviously, if you're going to do something, you need to measure how effective it is. And then we always have to talk about ethics and social responsibility. So to me, as a marketing instructor, this all makes logical sense to me. It's a good way to lay out this class. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to accept all of these and say, this is a pretty good starting point for me in building my class, right? And I'm going to add those to the course. And you see it automatically picks pictures for me. It adds a brief little description for me. And so now, within a matter of, 3, 4, 5 minutes, I now have a structured class with all of my module titles and descriptions built out for me, which is fantastic, right? So then I can come in and start adding my own content. So I can come in and say, or if I don't like this, I like this, but I want to edit it, you have full editing capabilities with anything that AI suggests for you. They're just suggestions. You can add to it, you can take away from it, you can edit it, you can reject it. It's just, it is literally just a suggestion for you to use. In this case, I like the suggestions. It makes logical sense to me, so I'm going to keep them as is, right? So then this works just like it does for any other module. We can come in and we can create our content, we can create our discussion boards, we can create our test, we do all of that, okay? But what it has done now is basically given me a structure to work from. It has now suggested this is the typical layout of what this class could look like, okay? So AI can also do a few other things, which actually maybe getting in a little more of the assessment piece in a minute. But let's do a document, add content. And we're looking at, what was this content about? Sorry, I forgot so understanding advertising. So let's just go out on the web real fast. I would do ChatGPT, but I'm not going to do that to you. Definition. And I'm just going to grab some content real fast because I don't want to type it out. I just want to grab some quick content. Definition of marketing research. Just going to grab that. I'm not saying go into your class and plagiarize. Don't take me for that. I just don't have the time to write out my content for this. And so let's add that into our understanding advertising. We'll come into the document, add content, copy and paste that there. And I'm going to click save. Okay. So now I've got this piece of content. I like it. Sounds good. I spent whatever period of time writing it. This could be a PDF document, it could be a Word document, whatever it is. So what happens whenever you add a piece of content, it now asks you, do you want to auto-generate a question bank based on the information that you just put into this document? Okay, so if I want to use this as a test or a quiz, and I want to write some test questions or some quiz questions based on that content, and I don't want to take the time to have to do it, I can get some suggestions from our AI design tool. So again, I click on auto-generate question bank. And while that's doing that, you can ask for specific types of questions. You can do an essay, fill in the blank, matching, multiple choice, true, false, or you can do what's called Inspire Me, which will give you a mix of the above. You're able to control the complexity of how hard the questions are or how complex they are. So if you're going to do like a practice quiz and just to check on their understanding, you might want to pull that complexity down. If you want to use it for a quiz or a test, you might want to raise that complexity up. And then you also can tell it how many questions do you want. So let's just do 5 questions. We'll regenerate those. So then what you do as the instructor, you have to actively accept any suggestions that we make for you. We are never going to add content or questions to your class without your express permission, without you adding them to it. Because that's part of our AI design framework, is that we don't want to just add stuff to your class without you knowing it. So we make these suggestions. You as the instructor need to review them and say, yes, I approve of this content, and then actively accept and put it into your class. All of our AI design stuff, it follows that exact same principle, okay? So you as the instructor have ultimate control over what goes into your class. We're just making some suggestions that might help speed up the process for you, or it may come up with something that you hadn't thought of before, okay? So I don't really like fill in the blank question, so I'm not going to take that one. But ooh, I like this, good multiple choice questions. What is the functional marketing and research to link the consumer, customer, and public to the marketer through information? Great answer. Love it. I like this one. And then I like the true false question. So now I can actively add that to my question banks. So when I go over to question banks and manage question banks, it has now created that test bank for me. Those 3 questions are now in a bank that I can pull from and use in my quizzes moving forward. Okay, so I can come in here and I can edit any of these questions that I want to. So if I want to change the wording to one of them, if I want to change the answer to one of them, I can go in and edit any of these questions. Again, AI gave me the suggestion, I accepted it, but I still have ultimate control and going in and editing what I just created, right? So make sure that, just want to get the point across that you guys are always in control of what happens. Always. You can pull from multiple test banks in a quiz. It just, I think, it would be a good option, I think, to be able to combine test banks or to do what you're saying. I think that's a great idea, just not quite there yet. But yeah, but you can pull from test bank from this class into your new, into your next semester.